At my father's retirement party, my sister introduced me to his boss and said, "Our sister, she never became anything in life." The boss looked at me, then at his phone, then back at me. "Ma'am, your sister's company pays my salary." The room fell silent. My father slowly turned toward me. He had been working for me for 5 years, and he had no idea. My sister Rachel picked up the microphone at my father's retirement party and introduced me to his boss by saying, "This is our little sister, Claire. She never became anything in life, but at least she managed to arrive on time today." Daniel Mercer looked at me, then at the email open on his phone, then back at me. "Ma'am, your sister's company pays my salary." The silence that followed was so complete that I could hear the ice machine running behind the bar. The party was being held in a small ballroom at a country club outside Columbus, Ohio. My father, Thomas Parker, was 64 years old and retiring after 32 years at Mason Industrial Systems. There were white tablecloths, navy blue balloons, framed photographs from different stages of his career, and a large sheet cake near the back wall. Someone had misspelled "congratulations" in blue icing. Rachel had complained about it 3 times before I arrived. I got there at 6:30. The printed invitation said 6 o'clock, but Rachel had changed the time in our family group chat that morning. She told me the event had been pushed back by 30 minutes. She told everyone else to arrive at 6 o'clock. By the time I walked into the ballroom, most people already had drinks in their hands and the speeches were about to begin. My coffee was still sitting in the cup holder of my SUV. It had gone cold during the drive. My gas light had come on 2 exits before I reached the country club, and I had made a note to stop on the way home. Those were the details running through my mind when I entered the room, not because they mattered, but because the other details mattered too much. I understood almost immediately that Rachel had already assigned me a role for the evening. I was going to be the late, unsuccessful younger sister who showed up after everyone important had arrived. She was going to be the capable daughter who organized the party, managed the family, and kept everything running. My father saw me near the entrance and tried to smile. My mother, Linda, lifted one hand from her chair but did not stand up. Rachel was at the front of the room in a red dress, holding the microphone. She was 42, 4 years older than I was, and whenever she spoke in front of strangers, her voice became louder and more polished than usual. She said a few kind things about Dad. She talked about his loyalty, his work ethic, and the years he had spent leaving the house before sunrise. Then she invited his boss, Daniel Mercer, to come forward. Daniel was the president of Mason Industrial Systems, but he reported to my holding company, Alderist Group. I had founded Alderist 11 years earlier. I owned 61% of it and served as its chief executive. Daniel had worked with me for 8 years. He recognized me as soon as I entered the room. Our eyes met from across the ballroom. His expression changed for half a second, and I gave him a small shake of my head. I did not want him to announce who I was. It was my father's retirement party. I wanted the evening to remain about him. Rachel did not give either of us that option. "And now," she said into the microphone, "I should introduce Daniel to both the successful and unsuccessful branches of the family." A few people laughed, the uncomfortable kind of laughter people use when they're not sure whether something is a joke or an insult. Rachel introduced her husband, Mark, first. She talked about his job in commercial insurance. Then she mentioned her own event planning business, Everly Events, and described herself as an entrepreneur. After that, she extended one hand toward me. "And this is Claire. She started a lot of things and completed almost none of them. My little sister, she never really became anything." She smiled while saying it. That was Rachel's preferred method. She delivered cruel statements in a cheerful voice so that anyone who objected would appear overly sensitive. I stayed where I was. Dad's smile disappeared, but he did not stop her. Mom adjusted the napkin in her lap. Mark looked down at the floor. Daniel pulled out his phone. On the screen was an email I had sent him earlier that afternoon, concerning the final approval of my father's retirement bonus and pension transition. Daniel looked at Rachel. What did you say Claire does? Rachel laughed. Some kind of consulting from home, you know, one of those jobs nobody can really explain. Daniel looked directly at me. Claire Bennett, Alderist. Yes, I said. Then he looked at Rachel. Ma'am, your sister's company pays my salary. Mason Industrial Systems is part of her company. Rachel was still holding the microphone, but her fingers loosened around it. The speaker made a brief scraping sound. My father slowly turned toward me. What is he talking about? Alderist bought Mason 5 years ago, I said. I founded Alderist. Dad looked at Daniel. You work for her? Yes, sir, Daniel said. I report to Claire and the board. Dad turned back to me. You. I was an employee of Mason. I removed myself from every decision involving your position, compensation, performance reviews, and retirement. Rachel set the microphone on the nearest table. Why did you never tell us? I looked at her. You never asked. That wasn't completely true. Rachel had asked questions over the years, but she usually supplied the answer herself. Are you still doing that little consulting thing? Do you even have health insurance? Are you saving anything for retirement? Do you still work from your apartment? I always answered the same way, work is going fine. That was all Rachel wanted to hear. She didn't want details. She wanted confirmation that she was ahead of me. Dad tried to continue the party. Daniel gave his prepared speech. People applauded. The cake was cut. Someone played a slideshow of old photographs from the plant. But the mood had changed. People kept glancing at me. Some of Dad's coworkers came over to shake my hand. Others looked confused, as if they were trying to reconstruct 5 years of company history in their heads. My mother approached me near the dessert table. Was it really necessary for this to come out tonight? I did not reveal it. You could have stopped Daniel. I tried. Rachel was making a joke. I looked at my mother. Were you laughing? She did not answer. Near the end of the party, Dad came over to me. He was holding the box containing the retirement watch Mason had given him. 5 years, he asked. Yes. You've owned the company for 5 years. Alderist owned Mason for 5 years. He stared at the watch box. What about when the plant was supposed to close? 5 years earlier, Mason Industrial had been close to collapse. Its lenders wanted to break it apart and sell the equipment, contracts, and property separately. 318 jobs were at risk. Alderist bought the company because the business still had valuable contracts, skilled employees, and a strong regional reputation. Its previous leadership had simply made a series of bad decisions. The acquisition made financial sense. But I had also made 2 conditions clear to my board: the Columbus plant would remain open, and the existing pension program would be protected. Did you save my job? Dad asked. I saved the plant. Your job was saved with it. Why didn't you tell me? Because you wanted to work for Mason, not for your daughter. I also didn't want anyone thinking your position came from my name instead of your work. He looked at me for several seconds. I never asked what you really did. It was the first direct thing anyone in my family had said all evening. At 10:30, Rachel was waiting beside my SUV. She had removed her heels and was holding them in one hand. Mark was sitting in their car with the engine running. You let me humiliate myself on purpose, she said. You picked up the microphone. You knew who Daniel was, and you did not tell me. You were trying to make me look like a failure in front of Dad's boss. You never bothered to find out who I was. She stepped closer. My company has a proposal under review at Alderist. That was when I understood why she had been working so hard to impress Daniel. Everly Events had submitted a bid to manage our annual leadership conference and 4 regional meetings. It was a 3-year contract worth approximately $420,000. "You are not going to make this personal," she said. "I am not. You cannot punish my company because of one joke." I said I would not make it personal. The next morning, I woke up to several messages from her. In the first, she said she had been exhausted. In the second, she said she had been drinking. In the third, she wrote that sisters did not destroy one another's careers. By the time I reached my office, my coffee had gone cold again. I called Nina Shah, our head of procurement, into the conference room. I told her that Everly Events belonged to my sister and that I was formally removing myself from the selection process. I gave one instruction: the proposal was to be evaluated according to the same standards as every other finalist. No favors, and no retaliation. Nina opened the file on her tablet. The family connection isn't listed on the disclosure form. Rachel had checked the box stating that she had no personal or family relationship with any officer of the client company. "Document it," I said. Over the next 2 days, the procurement team verified her references. One company said Rachel had organized a small holiday luncheon for them, not the annual corporate conference listed in her proposal. A second company said it had terminated its contract with Everly Events after a payment dispute involving vendors. The third reference turned out to be one of Rachel's college friends. Rachel had also included photographs from Dad's retirement party in her portfolio. The Mason Industrial logo was visible in the background, making it appear that Mason had hired Everly Events as a corporate vendor. It had not. Dad had paid for most of the party himself, and Mason had only provided the ballroom and retirement gifts. I did not order anyone to reject her proposal. I did not need to. On Friday, the committee voted unanimously to remove Everly Events from consideration. Our legal department also sent Rachel a notice requiring her to remove Mason's logo and stop representing the company as a client. That afternoon, Rachel came to my office. She was wearing jeans and a gray sweater, the first time in years I had seen her without carefully applied makeup. "You ordered an audit," she said. "Every finalist goes through verification. They investigated me more than the others. You failed to disclose our relationship, exaggerated your references, and used Mason's logo without permission. Everyone makes their portfolio look better. Not everyone invents client relationships." She remained standing. "One word from you could have secured that contract for me. Maybe that's why you wanted Daniel to believe you were successful and I was not." She placed both hands on my desk. "That contract could have saved my company." The financial documents submitted with her bid showed that Everly Events was deeply in debt. Its credit lines were fully used, and several vendors had not been paid on time. I looked at her. "An honest proposal might have helped your company. Lying did not." Her expression hardened. "Dad is giving me the money anyway. Are you going to stop him too?" I said nothing. It was the first time I had heard about the money. Rachel realized she had said too much. As she reached the door, she turned back. "You have always wanted me to fail." "No," I said. "I wanted you to stop inventing my failure." That evening, I drove to my parents' house. Dad was in the garage arranging screwdrivers by size. Mom was inside, putting leftover party trays from Costco into the refrigerator. Dad brought up the loan before I did. Rachel had asked him for $80,000. She had told him that the large corporate contract was almost guaranteed and that she only needed a temporary bridge loan until the first payment arrived. She had also told him that my finances were unstable and that he might need to save additional money to help me in the future. She had used my imaginary financial problems to support her real request for money. Dad looked at me. Was the contract almost guaranteed? She was a finalist. The committee rejected her because her submission contained false information. Did you make them reject it? I removed myself from the decision. This is the procurement report. I had brought a copy with me because I knew Rachel would tell her version first. Dad sat at the small workbench and read every page. He paused at the false references, the unauthorized logo, and the section describing Everly Events debt. Mom walked into the garage. Who brings paperwork into a family disagreement? I looked at her. The person this family has treated like an unemployed failure for 5 years. Dad did not give Rachel the money. The next morning, he told her he would not risk his retirement savings on a business whose true financial condition had been hidden from him. Later, he said she cried first, then became angry, and finally accused me of turning everyone against her. The following week, Rachel sent a long message to the family group chat. She said I had deceived everyone by hiding my wealth. She said I had bought Dad's company to gain power over the family. She said I was punishing her, and her children, because of one harmless joke. Mark did not respond. Mom wrote, "Please stop discussing this here." Dad answered before I did, "Claire did not take my job. She kept the plant from closing. You lied to me while asking for my retirement money. Those are not the same thing." Rachel left the group. After that, I did nothing. I did not contact her vendors. I did not tell anyone in the industry what had happened. I did not share the video from the retirement party, even though 3 people sent it to me. I did not use Aldris to destroy her company. I simply refused to bend my company's rules for her. That was enough. Within 2 months, Everly Events gave up its rented office space. Rachel sold her Range Rover and began operating the business from home. Mark took a second job. They were not ruined. They were simply forced to live according to their actual income for the first time. Mom stayed angry with me for several weeks. Then one afternoon, while we were driving to Target, she apologized. She said she should have asked more questions. She said she should not have allowed Rachel to speak about me that way for so long. She did not mention Rachel's responsibility directly. I did not accept the apology, and I did not reject it. I listened. In March, Dad visited my office for the first time. He gave his name to the receptionist and waited like everyone else. I met him in the lobby and took him upstairs. He looked at the glass walls, the boardroom, and the city beyond the windows. He noticed the framed photographs from several Aldris acquisitions. One of them showed the Mason industrial plant shortly after we purchased it. On my desk was the same inexpensive blue pen I had used for years. Dad picked it up and set it back down. "So this is what you've really been doing?" "Yes. I should have been proud of you sooner." "You should have known what I did sooner," I said. "Pride comes after that." He nodded. It was not a perfect reconciliation. I did not need it to be. Rachel contacted me one final time in April. Her message contained only one sentence: "You destroyed my life." I left my phone on the desk for a long time before replying. Then I wrote, "No." I stopped carrying it. She never messaged me again. I did not block her number. There was no reason to. The silence belonged to her now.